Everybody knows what an SCP is at this point, and if you somehow don't, then I bet you've seen one at least once if you've been on the internet for the past like 2 years. For me, I literally grew up watching those SCP reading videos and having a crisis thinking that SCP-096 is coming after me because I accidentally looked at an image of him for like 2 seconds. But I recently stuck my nose back into the SCP community, and by that, I mean listening to iceberg videos in the background while playing Gmod. But that actually gave me some inspiration to make my own SCP, or at least attempt to. Okay, heads up, this SCP is not that great. I came up with the story in like 2 minutes, but I really love these designs, and to be honest, I just wanted an excuse to share them. So I really don't care if these feel like real SCPs or not. So as you can see, I actually made 2 OCs, and they're labeled with the same number, SCP-9810A and SCP-9810B. I had some trouble picking the number for these guys, and originally their number was 20826, but I did not like how long that number was, so I spent like 30 minutes just spamming numbers until I found something that wasn't taken. I still think this number is too long, but literally all of the 3 number SCPs were taken. Important notice, I just number spammed until an SCP article wasn't the first thing that popped up. I didn't do any further searching, so if this number is also taken, then, I'm sorry, that's my fault. Give me a new number in the comments, I don't know. So the actual anomaly in this pair, SCP-9810A, is an early to late 20-year-old named Lonnie. She's a girl with no face, and biologically, she's basically a walking corpse. She has dried necrotic wounds on her body, and her skin is just dead and all corpse-like. Her face, however, is completely smooth and unblemished, though it still matches the same pale, dead skin color of the rest of her body. She is a Keter SCP, and before you throw tomatoes at me and accuse me of making a Mary Sue, the only reason she's a Keter is because she's just very difficult to contain. I didn't give her any other crazy powers or anything, it's just hard to keep her locked up, that's literally it. Anyways, Lonnie behaves and acts like a regular adult person, but she's described as being extremely hostile and uncooperative with everybody at the facility, and is quick to attack anyone that even slightly irritates her. She can be wounded and injured, but it doesn't seem like she feels pain, and her wounds instantly dry up and rot. She can contort her limbs into unnatural positions, including turning her head all the way around like an owl. And what makes her difficult to contain is the fact that she can phase through objects, mostly walls, floors, and ceilings. Whenever she phases through something, she leaves behind a rusty, rotted stain, depending on what the object was made of. Like stated, there have been attempts to contain her, but none of them have been successful yet. Moving on to 9810B, who is also an early to late 20-year-old named George. His real name is going to be redacted because he's just a harmless, normal guy. The only thing that makes him interesting is the fact that he's the only person who can see what Lonnie's face actually looks like. His face publicly would also be redacted, but I kept his face unblocked because I liked the way I drew it, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of his face being redacted, but I really don't care. Other than that, he's just a regular, normal, working class guy. He doesn't have anything special about him other than what was mentioned before. So he'll be referred to as John Doe, so I don't have to say redacted for this whole video. John is a safe class, of course, because without Lonnie, he's basically harmless. John is reportedly the only person that Lonnie isn't violent towards, and when being interviewed together, Lonnie is more cooperative and less hostile, though obviously unless she's provoked, she'll go right back to being violent. When John is interviewed separately from Lonnie, she still finds ways to be in the same room as him, and despite many attempts to keep them separated, even for a minute, Lonnie always makes her way back to him, which resulted in multiple deaths of D-classes and staff members. From John's recount of how he met Lonnie, he stated that he took a different route driving home from work, since the road he usually took was closed due to a bad car accident. That new route he took led him to a narrow back road in the middle of the woods. Really creepy stuff, I know. While he was driving, his car just suddenly broke down. He wasn't low on gas, his tires weren't popped or anything, his car just straight up stopped. That's where he met Lonnie, because while he was stuck in the middle of the road, he claimed that she showed up right behind him and offered to help. He said she just took a look at his engine and suddenly his car was working again. When he was asked what she looked like when he first saw her, he said he could see her face and described her as having green eyes and just a regular looking face, no visible signs of death or anything off-putting. When asked about the wounds on her arms and legs, he said he wasn't able to see the wounds on her body at first, since on that day she had been wearing clothes that covered them, like a long sleeve turtleneck and jeans or something. For the next month or so, the road John usually took home home remained closed, so he was forced to go back to that same road he had been using. And every time he used this road, his car would mysteriously break down for no reason, and Lonnie would show up again. When Lonnie was asked if she was the cause of John's car problems, she denied it. But she might be lying, I don't know guys. As this went on, John and Lonnie's meetups would get longer and longer until one day he just drove Lonnie back to his house and she spent the night there. But after that, Lonnie wouldn't leave. And John described the first few days of her in his home as a real-life horror movie. He described waking up in the middle of the night and finding her on his ceiling. She would attack him when he least expected it. The power in his house had completely gone out, and it would always be cold even if the weather outside was hot. She was just haunting his house, basically. Throughout all of that, though, John could still see her face. And after living with Lonnie for a month, they got into a romantic relationship. When Lonnie was asked about the situation, all she said was that she didn't know he could see her face to begin with. Researchers originally thought that Lonnie was using some kind of mind control or that she was a parasite of some sort, but after more interviews and tests, they discovered that John actually liked her and he was just a weird guy. But John isn't completely innocent. John's manager had passed away in his car from unknown causes. Internally, it looked as if he had been strangled, but there weren't any marks found on the outside of his body to confirm that. And John's neighbor had also been found dead in his home from the exact same causes. Though, upon inspecting his home, his power had been cut off in the same way John described when Lonnie was first living with him. And his house was just in complete disarray. Like every glass thing in his home was broken, his pipes were busted, just a whole mess inside of his house. When John was asked about this, at first he denied in being involved with their passings. However, after further interrogation, he admitted that he told Lonnie to get rid of them. No one knows if John got Lonnie to go after anyone else, but it's extremely likely. Going back to the road mentioned before, a team was sent to investigate that back road. The area didn't show any signs of abnormality. However, a few miles away from that road was a small graveyard. Nothing was abnormal about the graveyard itself, but they decided to dig up all of the graves and inspect the caskets just to see if there was anything of interest. And after digging up the grave of a girl named Lynette Miller, who died in 1966 at 23 years old, the casket was completely empty, and the interior of it was described as moldy, damp, and just really gross and musty. The grave marker appeared to be clean with no notable abnormalities. It was just the inside of the casket that was empty and gross. The people from that trip think that Lonnie is the person named on the grave, since Lonnie could be a shortened version of Lynette. But when asked about it, Lonnie refused to cooperate as usual. There were attempts to find out who Lynette was as a person, specifically the cause of her death, but the only thing they could find is someone who they suspect could be the only living relative of Lynette. However, the woman was in her late 90s and didn't recall ever having a sister, and likewise, Lonnie also claimed she never had a sister. Fun fact about Lonnie, when I was first creating her, I had the idea to make her the daughter of SCP-106. However, I realized that was a really shitty idea and it would not help me beat the Mary Sue allegations. Besides, the only thing they vaguely have in common is looking corpse-like and phasing through stuff. That's literally it. It wouldn't make sense for them to be related. Also, for John, I would like to give credit to Discord member and Freddy's 05 cast member Art House of Dank for giving me inspiration for his design. This was something that they made after I first created the two SCPs, and I liked the design so much that I decided to carry it over to mine. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this big cringe fest. I had a lot of fun drawing these two. I think they look super cute together, and I might draw them again, but most likely I'll probably forget about them for years until I remember again. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and that's all. Okay, bye.